My son's playing rap, and I'm enjoying a PB and mayo. My husband's out with his pizza posse. He's not big on rap or PB and mayo. Mom, I want a baddie with a juicy ass. He says stuff that may or may not be intended to rile me up. Daniel, girls don't like that. I know. I used to be one. He turns little baby up a notch. I got different kind of bitches I keep getting caught with hoes. Oh, little baby. As parents, my husband covers sports and leisure. I handle sex and death. It works. Buddy, do you understand the difference between bitches and hoes? Not really. A bitch is who a guy shacks up with. His wife, girlfriend, baby mama. A hoe is who he flaunts on the side and buys jewelry for. Later, I Google bitch and hoe. Hoes fuck everybody. Bitches fuck everybody but you. And hoes get things done to them. Bitches just get things done. Honey, a juicy ass is great, but there's way more to it. I've never had a juicy ass. Jesus, Mom, stop. It's terrific exercise mothering a 90% straight, quirky, and reckless boy in this era of TikTok, cancel culture, and fuck the patriarchy. It's a can of worms. A week later, I beeline to the living room and announce to my son and his two bros, I'm finally dealing with my childhood trauma. They look up from their phones. I regret the share and return to my bedroom. My growing up years were challenging. My husband calls my family a Eugene O'Neill play. Without the laughs. Rap has cracked a memory window, along with Daniel being beyond the most vulnerable childhood years. My experiences weren't unique. Trauma wasn't even a word when I was a kid. I wasn't caged or seared with cigarettes, but my notions of safety and what's right were compromised. As a parent, it's hard to resist comparing your methods to your parents'. It's a trip. I won't cop to being a helicopter mom, but I've maintained a hawk eye, especially during the high-risk kidnapping years and when he was a young actor on TV. I ask a lot of questions. LA isn't conducive for old-school free-range parenting. When I was coming up, free-range wasn't a style when it came to raising chickens, cattle, or humans. It just was. My folks were of the silent generation. They worked hard and kept quiet. Their kids, like me, had an abundance of chores, like painting the entire house, and space, like days when nobody knew where I was. There were few questions asked. Day one of 5th grade at Catholic school, I was assigned a boyfriend. This entailed cheering for Kevin Hickey when he entered the playground. Kevin, he's our man. Let's give him a mighty hand. Mike Vore wanted to go with me from 5th grade on. He had a dramatic streak. Once our neighbor ordered him to quit manhandling her because Mike was getting rough on my porch. I appreciated how manhandle hid its meaning. In 7th grade, Mrs. Cadigan summoned me to her desk when Mike carved my name in his forearm with a paperclip. I sat at the smart table and Mike at the dumb table, so she figured I should have better control over that situation. It was the 70s. Mark Shermer offered to let me sit on his face in freshman history class. And Kevin Trammell drove me to call him a briar when he trapped me against my locker. I was nearly kidnapped at least once. A teenager named Harold, whom I learned was simple-minded, snuck up on me in our backyard when I was breaking in my new two-piece. I was home with the mumps. My mother's psychic powers kicked in, and she flew out holding a steaming iron. Our sexy Jewish neighbor, Pauline, went after Harold in her Camaro and drove him to the Dayton PD. She might have had her gun. Here's the deal. I thought I must be asking for it. Boys couldn't help themselves when it came to pretty girls who don't scream no. Adult sexual attention was even trickier. As a little girl, my dad's buddy Duke offered me dollars to sit on his lap. At 12, my friend Kelly's dad whispered, "My Cinderella princess." Mr. Genovese needed a hug for a bowl of his minestrone. At 13, Dad began taking me to Stouffer's restaurant and let me order whatever I wanted. I always started with a shrimp cocktail. I suspected he hoped people thought we were something other than family. I let it slide because we never had seafood at home, except canned salmon patties, which I love. By junior year, I worked it. I hated cheerleading and threatened discrimination until Coach Boddy made me and Marietta football managers. 4 years ago, I received a letter from the Archdiocese revealing that Coach had become a Catholic brother, was imprisoned for molestation, and was now deceased. Brothers were something. Brother Fritz Kraft often invited me, Marietta, Kevin Hickey, and Mark Shermer to the church basement for a flirty Friday lunch of homemade tuna salad and saltines. It was delicious. He also gave us pot. He came to our parties and passed out on the lawn. He once cornered me in Tom Clark's kitchen. I grabbed a paring knife. God knows where Fritz is now. My mom considered me a comrade more than a responsibility. She blithely pimped me out. Freshman year, she picked me up from school one day and spotted Jerry Schmalstick. Heavens, that gorgeous creature, those plaid pants. You must date him, sweetheart. Mother, I'm not allowed to date until I'm 16, and he's a senior. I don't care, Lorianne. That butt, that smile. I did date Jerry that summer. He asked me if I'd wait for him if he joined the Army. Mom was that mom. Like from after-school specials, eager to share joints and dance to Freebird. She had a thing for my manhandler, Mike Vore. I'd come home, and they'd be in the kitchen nibbling Ritz crackers. She regularly pleaded his case. Sweetie, he adores you. He even cries over you. Give him a chance. Later, when Dad and she were murmuring about divorce, she brought me along to happy hours and arty things with her male friends. I started calling her Darlene. Darlene bought me negligees. Darlene talked badly about my father. Darlene spent a lot of time in bed. Mom was a delicate beauty with a romantic constitution. My dad, Larry, was tall, dark, and handsome. The darkness included his sense of humor and urge to bully. He'd routinely had his ass kicked by his older brother, Phil. Now, I'm not sure how I learned this, but it wasn't from Dad. He was an unrealized artist, and she an undiscovered muse. Makes sense that I'm creative and gravitate toward the macabre. Larry and Darlene married at 21. On a trip home in my early 30s, Dad implied over several Chardonnays at Urban Suburbans that they were 20 when I was conceived. He had deep guilt over what I assured him was no big whoop. I made a sort of peace with him that night, seeing him more as a peer. It's no surprise that my boy's scoot into adulthood correlates with these reflections. We're close that way. I was 40 when he came along, and I've really let him get to know me. I continue telling him to put the phone down, make your bed, stop smoking weed, and girls don't like that. Whether he appreciates it or not, I'll keep asking questions and discussing what's right and safe, what girls want and don't. I know. I was a girl once. Thank you.